What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be changing the sprocket and chains on the Honda CB300R. If you have one of these bikes, then you know the chain is actually a little bit noisy. That's why I've decided to change the sprockets and chain. So what you're going to need is obviously a chain. Chain size is a 520. I've decided to go with the gold one because why not? Got to flex the gold chain. Then we've just got the rear sprocket, which is a 36 tooth. A front sprocket, which is a 14 tooth. You're also going to need a chain breaker tool. I've also got some black CNC sprocket nuts just because I think they look better than the silver ones. So if you've got some sprocket nuts that aren't from the factory, you're going to need some Loctite or Dynagrip, whatever I've got. I couldn't find any Loctite, so this is the best I've got. If you're getting Loctite, get the blue Loctite. Also a rear stand, because you're going to need to lift the bike off of the ground. Okay, so I'm going to get started and I'm going to go back to the POV view rather than using a different camera, so enjoy. So first up, we have to take this front sprocket cover off. So that's going to be an 8mm socket to get the bolts off. I'm pretty sure there's only two, and then we can loosen off the front sprocket while it's on the ground. Okay, now that's off, you can see the front sprocket there. So the front sprocket has two 10mm bolts. We're just going to undo those. Also, I want to mention this is a very dirty job, so if you have latex gloves or something, probably use them. I don't have any. So now that the front sprocket's loose, we can get it up on the rear stand and remove the rear axle. Okay, so the rear axle is a 15/16 size socket. I can't really figure out what that is in millimeters, but this is all I've got in that size, so I'm going to use that. Okay, you're also going to need a 19mm spanner to hold on the other side while you're undoing it. Alright, now that that's off, you can tap that out. Once again, I don't have a hammer, so I'm going to have to work out how to get this out. So I'm going to loosen off these rear adjusters as well, just to give it some extra slack. Okay, I got it a little bit. Let's give it a wiggle till it comes out. There we go. There we go, axle's out. Okay, so we're gonna have to break the chain off. I didn't really want to do that because I wanted to keep this as a spare, but you know, these things happen. All right, so what we have to do is get our chain breaker tool. I might actually just put the axle in a little bit so I can turn it. Okay, you might want to break the chain before taking the axle out so you can freely spin it. And if you can hear that, that's the reason why I'm changing it. Now I know you might think it's because it's all loose right now, but that's what it sounds like all the time. Okay, so I can't find a master link, so I'm just gonna grab a random one and break it off. Okay, so what we want to do is get the link we want to break off in that center hole, and the other two links to sit in between these two grooves. And then we will twist this down with a spanner until the push pin there comes out and breaks the chain off. Now I want to remind everyone that I've never done this before. I've only just watched a YouTube video on how to do this, so I'm learning. Okay, so I've got the chain breaker in there. Now I need correct size spanner, which will be a 14. Well, it looks like it's working, so with a bit of force, it's going to work. All right, so I'm going to just back it off, see if it's actually loose now. Yep. Okay, so the chain is, well, the chain's apart. I just didn't get it out all the way. But that's fine, it's not going to be reused. Not now anyway. Good news is the chain breaker tool works. That's a win. So now we're just going to pull the chain out. Okay, so the chain's out. Pull the axle again. take the rear wheel out. So we've got everything off. The brake caliper is held on by the axle. So make sure you don't wreck that. Just put it off to the side there. Because these tires are a little bit thin, the axle center will sit on the ground if you put it down. So maybe if you have a spare tire, maybe sit it on that instead of putting it on the ground with the axle down. You definitely don't want to be sitting the rear disc on the ground. But for now, I'm just going to sit that there so I don't have a tire. Okay, now we're going to see about removing the front sprocket. I've already loosened it off. It looks all pretty easy to come off actually. Little locking washer, make sure to keep that because you're going to need to use it again. And the sprocket should just slide off nice and easy. As you can see, mine's got a bit of wear on it. I don't think it's supposed to be like that. So while we're at it, I'm going to put the new sprocket on. So I'm pretty sure that just slides over anywhere. All right, so the way that this little locking ring works is it slides over this first bit there and it slightly off centers in this groove here. So then one of these teeth here goes behind one of these teeth and that keeps that from coming out. So that's how this thing works. That's why it's really important to have it. So I'm just going to slide that in, line it up with one of our holes, put the screws in, just hand tight for now. We'll tighten them up later when we're done. Now I did get the standard size sprockets. I didn't change the size at all. Now the reason for that is I do a lot of highway work. If you get a, like say a high torque setting, so you take off faster, you lose a lot of top speed. So sitting at 100 kilometers an hour, it would be revving out to like 9,000 RPM. And I would prefer it to go the other way, but they don't make sprockets the other way. So I'm keeping it standard sizing for now, because if you go to high torque, so it takes off faster, first gear becomes completely useless. And I just don't want to deal with any of that. So that's why I'm keeping it standard. Next job is to remove this one. Hopefully they're not too tight, but we'll see how we go. Okay, so these are going to be 17 mil. Hopefully I can get these off. All right, so those came off. All right, so that's off. Nice and easy. Yeah, you can see in here, they've got these little locking clips just to stop them from shearing off and coming loose. Now, if you want to reuse these, go ahead. But I've got different ones to use. Now, if you're wondering why the original sprocket has this cover on it and the new ones don't, these are actually like a toe guard. So if you come off the bike, your foot doesn't get caught in the chain and go in the chain. So that'll stop that from happening. That's probably also the reason why the chain's so noisy on these, but we'll see how the new one goes. All right, so with the new one, just slide it on like so. Now the new one is silver, doesn't look as good as a black one. You can't get a black sprocket unless you paint the silver one or you get an alloy one. Now the alloy ones don't last as long as the steel ones, but if you want to get one of those, you can. I've just gone with the silver one. I was going to paint it, but can't be bothered, so I'm not going to. Plus it gives it a little bit of contrast, so we'll see how it looks on the bike. And then maybe one day I'll change it over again to an alloy one and see how that goes. So I've got these black CNC dealies. I'm going to see if they fit on. Yeah, look at that. Nice. All right, so what I'm going to do is put a little bit of Loctite on these because these don't have a clip on the inside to hold it in. So I'm just going to put a little bit of blue Loctite on. Yeah, hopefully that'll sit nicely on there and hold it in. These are actually a little bit lighter than these as well. Not by much, but a little bit. They're also a different size, so we're going to need to get a different size socket. All right, so just going to put a bit of blue Loctite on the threads. Not much, just enough. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to screw these on. All right, so those are all on. They look pretty nice. I'm going to torque them up. Okay, so the rear sprockets need to be torqued up to 65 Newton meters. Now, I'm not sure if I'll be able to torque these up on the ground here, so I'm just going to get them close as I can get them. I'm just going to do them up a little bit tight first in a star pattern, just to make sure it's evenly on there. And then we'll see if I can tighten them up. All right, so they're all torqued up on there. I'm going to torque the front sprocket up as well. Now the front sprocket only needs 10 Newton meters. Oh no, I've just broken it. That's not good. 10 Newton meters is way too much. All right, well, don't talk it up to 10 Newton meters. So I've just gone and goofed. I've broken off one of the front sprocket bolts. So just do them up a little bit, just a little bit. What I'm gonna do now, so I'm still gonna finish this. I'm still gonna put the chain on, do the rest of it. I just won't be able to ride it until I get a new bolt. So I'll finish off the video and I'll replace the bolt when I get a new one. Luckily, these sprockets come with 4 holes. So all I have to do is just move that around and use these 2 with the new bolts. So yeah, learn from me, don't do them up tight. All right, so that one's sheared off in there. Luckily it's pretty flat, doesn't poke out either side. So I'm just gonna use the other 2 sides and keep using this sprocket. I'll have to go get a new bolt, but it'll be okay. I can continue on. Okay, I'm gonna put the rear wheel back on. We're gonna wanna put that back in place. We wanna make sure that the disc goes back in between the brake pads. It's gonna be a bit of a pain to get the rear axle back in. Just wanna keep wobbling it around until it goes in. Give it a bit of a whack. Now I'm not gonna do it up at all yet. I wanna get the chain on and all that stuff first. Okay, so the chain I got is a connecting link style. So what happens is, well, once you've got the chain at the right size, these go in there like that. They must get pressed in a little bit as well. This clip goes on there to hold it in place. Now, it's not recommended that you use these. You should be getting a rivet type. Now, I didn't know that before I got this, so I'm just gonna use this anyway. I don't really give this bike a hard time, so there shouldn't be an issue, but it is recommended you get a rivet style. Okay, now this chain also is not to length, so we're gonna have to count the links and chop it down to size. So a link is each one of these little dots, and we're gonna need 108. Yep, so that one there is the one we need to break. Okay, you'll wanna double check before you break the new chain. If you go 1 link too short, you're gonna need a new chain. So make sure you count them again, and make sure you have the correct amount of links. I'm gonna break this one, then put it on the bike. All right, so that one's all separated. Now I'm just gonna feed it through from the back through to the front. Now this probably would be easier if you took this cover off. Push the back wheel in as far as it'll go so we can link these up. All right, so with this, I need to put these little O-rings in here. So one there, and then one at the top, one there, when you put it in the other side. And also grease them up. Okay, O-rings, one on the bottom there, one on the bottom there. So grease up these. Probably don't need that much. It's just that's what came out of the packet. Put it in. Okay, so with that put in, I put it in through the back so it's easier for me to get to, but that's what you should be left with at the moment. Now, all you want to do is put the other O-rings on the front there, and then put the other gold link on the top, and then I think we have to press it. Okay guys, good news. I called up my Honda dealership and they have the sprocket bolts in stock, so I'll be able to finish that today. Now we need to put the other link in. So this is a press plate on the chain breaker tool. So the press plate needs to be put in to press the new link in. Gonna go do that. Okay, so we're up to this point here. We've got the back one in, gonna put these O-rings on. So now we've got the O-rings there. Now I need to put this on there, and we need to press that in with the tool. So I'm gonna pop the camera on my head and see if we can get this done. Okay, so the press plate goes on that part there, then it goes on your chain like that, and lines up like that. So I'm gonna use my torque wrench because it's the only thing I have that will work at the moment. I don't have a spanner to use. Do not use your torque wrenches like this. It's a bad idea. Let's see if that actually worked. Looks like it did. Okay, seems that it's done its job. Looks like it's where it needs to be. Now I need to put the connecting link on. Okay, so this goes on that way. So the direction of the chain, you want this round part to go. So the chain goes that way, so you want it to go on that way. Okay, so what you want to do is just sit it in like that. So there's a big hole there
that you can just put the back one in like that and then slide it across till it gets to there. And then you get your pointy nose pliers and snap it into place like that. So that's in place like that. Pretty easy.
Like I said though, these probably aren't the best chains to go for, because if that comes loose while you're riding, then you know the chain can come off. So best off to get the rivet style, but for me, I don't really ride this bike that hard, so it should be fine. Anyway, I'll adjust the rear wheel, get that all in line, do everything up, then I'll go get the new front sprocket bolts, and that'll be it. Okay, so we're just gonna pull back on the wheel. Okay, so I'm gonna use the 14mm spanner just to move the rear wheel back into the spot where it's supposed to be. There should be a green line there. Just go at the very first bit of the green line, and then we're gonna measure the slack in the chain.
So as you can see, I've got the main arrow one just at the start of the green. And we want to measure the slack of the chain. So as you can see on the sticker on the side here, it says 35mm slack. If you can read it, GoPro's not very good at reading things close up. Not really sure where to measure it from, to be honest. Once you've got that sorted, you can tighten up your locking nut, which is a 12mm. Once you're happy with both sides where they're at, then you can do up your axle bolt. All right, so your rear axle bolt needs to be done up to 88 Newton meters, which I've just done. Okay, now that that's all together, it's much more quiet. All right, so that's pretty much it. All right, so that's all done. Pretty easy, took a couple of hours. All I have to do now is just get a new bolt for the front sprocket, put the cover back on. All right, so after you've finished all of this, make sure you re-lube the chain with some fresh chain lube. The stuff that's on it isn't gonna cut it, so make sure you do that, and then you're all done. It's not that bad of a job. You definitely can do it yourself if you have the right tools. The whole cost of this was under $200 for the new chain and sprocket. It's about $50 for the chain breaker. Yeah, so I think I'll finish the video off for today. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you've had any issues with changing sprockets and chains, if there's an easier way you want to tell me about, let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.